So I need to be like that commercial. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good. And I can hear you. Thank you. I don't know what I did earlier other than move some papers, but
We were hearing you perfectly clear, though. That's what's weird.
but I couldn't hear you. That was bizarre. I could see lips moving.
Oh, no.
All right, just one moment, Chair Harrington, and then we will be ready to be live on the YouTube. All right, Madam Chair, we are good to go, and I believe we have everyone that is needed.
Commissioner Willie, are you there? There he is. Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021, Washington County Board of Commissioners meeting. We just convened out of executive session. This is Chair Catherine Harrington. I'm joined with Commissioner Roy Rogers, Commissioner Pam Treese, Commissioner Nafisa Pai, and Commissioner Jerry Willie. The next item on our agenda is board and leadership communication. Who would like to go first? Go ahead, Commissioner Pai. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and fellow commissioners. Last week, I had a great conversation with our independently elected auditor, John Hutzler, and his staff. And then I also had a meeting with the Preschool for All initiative to talk about their ballot initiative coming to this board. I think probably in the fall for approval. I then had the opportunity with the rest of the board and some staff to get an update from the Washington County Fair Board and tour the building. Amazing, well-designed building. I met Commissioners Rogers and Commissioner Willie's beautiful wives. Had a great conversation. Please say hello for me. I want to extend my gratitude and thanks to the board, Washington County Fair Board members, and Leah and her staff for the great work they did. The fair was amazing. My kids and I enjoyed the fair. Their highlights were the animals, even though they rode almost every ride they could. I had a great conversation with a constituent in the Butternut Creek neighborhood to problem solve some stormwater issues with the creek. And yesterday, I had a great meeting with Sunrise Beaverton. We talked about partnership with the Board of Commissioners on collective community impact. So all in all, it was a great and a busy and productive week last week. That's my update for this morning.
On the collective community impact, I know that our Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer is working with us to try and sort through how we center equity in our budget. So it may be helpful, if you haven't already done this, to share with her what Sunrise Beaverton defines or uses to define collective community impact, so we can sort through different community definitions.
Yeah, and I think that might have been my own framing of our own conversation. I don't think they necessarily said, let's work, I think they were more so looking for partnership to really work together to improve the health of everyone in our community. And I think I summarized it as collective community impact to shorten it to be succinct for my update. But yeah, I think it's a good group to connect with the equity leadership. So you bring a good point, actually. So I can nudge Latricia to connect with them to have that conversation because they are interested in the budget, Catherine.
Well, I just want to make sure that this is a new space for the Board of Commissioners to move through. And so I want to make sure that we've had the opportunity working with our equity officer to be mindful of how we go about it. That's not to say that we're going to satisfy all realms within our community, but I want to make sure we at least have the opportunity to be aware. So great, that's excellent. Thank you. Oh, and I think at least the prior commissioners, Rogers, myself, Therese,
Did I
and
freeze?
Willie had the opportunity to learn a bit about the the Butternut Creek flooding and management through Clean Water Services back in, was that 2019?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
hopefully Clean Water Services has been able to bring you up to speed on what we had prior.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark has been great, and Mark is gonna stepped in to problem solve. Actually, he's leading the charge on this. And actually, to be fair, I was on the CWAC when the Butternut
Oh,
Creek,
right.
so, and also heard the presentation in our CPOs. So very well aware.
Terrific. Great, great, great. All righty. Who else? Go ahead, Commissioner Therese.
Good morning. Hello, everybody. I'm going to be reading part of my my update. First of all, I also had a great meeting with John Hutzler, and it was a very productive meeting, and I appreciated the outreach from the auditor's office. On Wednesday last week, it was the MPAC meeting, and you know, the forces of the internet were operating against me, but I had to make a quick trip out to the Xfinity store to get new products to allow me to work. And I didn't get hooked in until an hour after the presentation started, but Megan was there covering for me, and the chair was also there. So I appreciate that. And I'm sorry for my my internet gods descending upon me. But there was an update on the SHS. Metro explained that the initial estimate for how much money would be generated is less than what was projected. The initial estimate was $250 million from February 2020, and now it's revised down to $215 million a year. The information was that it's reduced because Metro had to account for concerns over a double taxation issue resulting in businesses paying tax twice. So there was a loss of 25 to 40 million, but it was certainly appropriate adjustment that needed to be made. The main message was that the estimates will continue to be revised and they're not set in stone. Washington County is estimated to receive about $400,000 to distribute. And we also learned how other counties plan to distribute their dollars. There was also a legislative update during that time as well. I am sorry to say, just lost my train here, just 1 second. Then on Thursday, I attended Trisha's virtual retirement. That was bittersweet, I think is the best way to put it. It was great to hear people sing her praises. I think the one that struck me the hardest was Marnie, and clearly Marnie was very, very sad that Trisha was leaving, but at the same time, everybody's happy about her new adventures. So that's all good. Commissioner Rogers was also there, and I appreciated that his support as well during the time that we represented the board, if you will. We had an update. We being the chair and myself from the preschool for all last week. That was very interesting, and we had our meeting on Friday. The meeting really was focused on getting us positioned to come back to this group with a recommendation. So with that, that's my update. If you have any questions, and I assume, Chair, you will also talk about the two meetings that we had together. There's been just a tremendous amount of work that's gone on, and the bottom line is there's a lot of agreement about the need. As we move forward, the issue is going to be funding, as it always is. So that's where the rubber meets the road. But this is certainly something that I think the need for this type of start for our youth is really important. So with that, I will turn it over to the next person.
I'll let
Hi,
Roy back
Commissioner
clean
Woolley.
up today. Yeah, thank you, Nafisa, for pointing out the great fair that we had. We got the fair board got an email from Leah yesterday, kind of as a little bit of a quick recap and some great numbers. I won't steal the thunder from that. I think as soon as the final results are all put together, Leah will certainly communicate that to the commission. But overall, it was a great fair. Attendance was way up. It's kind of hard to compare the attendance and the concessions and all of those kinds of things when this is our first 10-day fair. But what was good about it is that obviously we didn't have a fair last year. There was a lot of pent up energy towards the fair, and so and we certainly provided a great venue for that. So hats off to all the people that worked and made that fair a success. So thank you, Leah, for your hard work on that. I've been getting updates on the homeless camps, specifically 197th, the Camp 47 one, Highway 47 one out by Forest Grove, and then the new one on Oak Baseline on West Hillsborough. So kind of monitoring all of those. And we've got obviously a lot of work to do and cleaning up and trying to find some sort of direction or resolution, I guess, to that. I don't think there's a resolution, but anyway, it takes a lot of work, and I appreciate the staff and all the attention they give to that. Also had a meeting with Future Connect, and that was with Mayor Beatty and Mayor Callaway and Future Connect folks, and we're talking about the success of that program, and so there'll be more information coming to the commission on that as well. Just a minute, I got to pull up my information here. Also had a conversation with North Plains. They are working on their economic opportunity analysis that they have to update, and certainly working on their future of providing industrial land, commercial land, and residential land for their city that is growing at a very, very rapid pace. And so it was good to hear from them. And again, they're going to be coming to us sometime in the near future, I would guess, just to update the commission on what their plans are, and certainly any support or help that they will need from the county. So that's kind of a coming attractions there as well. Of course, met with Habitat, and they updated on their plans and certainly their needs and what some of the growth that they're going to anticipate, and certainly is being driven by our housing situation right now. So they're doing a great job. I think the interesting thing is they have lots of volunteer support. They have a great program. They just need more money, but doesn't everybody, I guess. And then again, shifting gears to broadband, have had some more conversation. I shout out to Stephen and LUT. They are providing the information that our consultant needs. So thank you very much, Stephen, and your group for helping us out along those lines. And again, that will we will give you the commission an update sometime in the next couple of months as to where we're going. And I don't expect to see a report from our consultants for several months, but they continue to ask questions and give us more information. So that's kind of an ongoing thing. And again, I'll make sure that the commission is updated on that when we kind of get to the first chapter. So that's all I get.
Thank you, Commissioner Willie. Commissioner Rogers, how about you?
Sounds like we're all having the same meetings with the John Hutzler, with the Habitat group. I guess it's a preschool for all. It was an interesting meeting, and we had a bit of discussion about their tax philosophy. And so I think I'd ask for some updates once they formulate a little bit more information in the fall, because it certainly has some implications for some folks. I think I might have mentioned, had lunch with the mayor and city manager Tualatin. You'll have that on your agenda. Don't be surprised to see me make a few comments. That project I've been so deeply involved with for a ton of decades. Go back to the Carl Hostica days at Metro, and we dealt with a lot of issues out there which are now seeming to needing to be revisited. Let's just say that. So you'll hear me say a bit about that today. Jerry, for you, we took a little tour with Leah after, and I wanted to compliment you and the Fair Board. I had a couple of vendors come up, and one particularly who thanked us for opening up the fair. He stressed that was his economic livelihood, and that he was so grateful. They all said it was a beautiful new building, but he was so grateful that they could go back into the marketplace and feed their families and do what they needed to do. So Jerry, good job. You guys really did terrific. So I won't repeat what everybody else said, because we had the same sorts of conversation last night. Was the ACT meeting. We were dealing, if you can believe it, with 2427 STIP. That's way out there, but people get excited. There's new proposals. There's a few projects, about 6 of them in the region, 4 of them being advanced. There's new proposals being drafted almost daily. The thing that I would tell you is that the ACT, it's just a committee, obviously appointed by the OTC, but there's another committee between the ACT and the OTC, which will also be making recommendations. And then the OTC will be making recommendations. So for any of you who think that that's the Region 1 ACT is the place that's going to really come up with the analysis, they will. Will they make the recommendation? No, but that all happened last night. It was a nice meeting. Today at 3 o'clock, the chair and I are meeting at 4. That's still on, but at 3 o'clock, I'm going to have to bug out. I've got a little doctor's call I've got to take, and it only lasts 10 or 15 minutes, so I'll get out and then come back on. So that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogers, for mentioning the Tualatin info that's coming later. I am going to be relying upon hearing from you, and don't be surprised if I ask or direct some questions your way to try and fill in on how the situation evolves over time. So that'll be great. I'll be counting on you. Thank you. So over the last week, I attended the Washington County Visitors Association Board of Directors as the county rep. As you know, Dave Parullo started as the executive director recently, and so it's, I think, our first board meeting with him on board. So he gave us an update about how he's getting to know the businesses in the travel industry in our area. We had quite a bit of discussion about the state of affairs of business travel, as well as tourist travel, and the impact to our area hotels. The tourist level travel is doing pretty well. The hotels are still impacted by the shortage of workforce. So they've had to limit their number of available rooms on the market because they don't have enough staff to clean and service the rooms. which of course affects operating costs and availability. Our area has really been dependent upon business travel. So we were looking forward to the state reopening milestone, which we hit in July, right, with full reopening. But now with many businesses, they're still not approving business travel due to workman's comp concerns with regard to liability, given the continued presence of the COVID virus throughout our nation. So that continues to affect our hoteliers in the area. So we just keep working through it. I had my follow-up meeting with Rise Beaverton, which is different than Sunrise Beaverton. You can find more information on rise305.org. It is an area nonprofit that works to support vulnerable at-risk youth. And so in meeting with Jody Monroy, a sound next step was to hook her up with our staff. So she and Marnie, and I want to thank Marnie Kyle for getting together with Ms. Monroy. But that is, along with Commissioner Treese, she and I met with the combination of Habitat for Humanity Portland region, reorganized with formerly the East Tualatin Valley Habitat for Humanity, as well as individually, well, in the same meeting, the West Tualatin Habitat for Humanity group. And as Commissioner Willie noted, their request is looking for funding specifically for ARPA dollars. So similarly with Rise Beaverton, and no doubt with Future Connect and onward. So it will be helpful for us through our next ARPA steering committee update to the Board of Commissioners to have some idea of how the tranche 1 funding status is going. You know, can we seek some public health dollars through other means to free up more dollars from tranche 1? And then how might we be moving forward with community engagement with tranche 1 possible, right? Right now we don't have it, but then through tranche 2, because folks are certainly lining up and asking for meetings to lobby us, irrespective of our not having funding right now. As Commissioner Treese mentioned, she and I had our preschool for all briefing like you all had. But of course, she and I are each on the task force. But nonetheless, we did have that sync up. And as mentioned, we're looking forward to the task force having more appreciable work for us to have a work session on that in the future. So it was, all 5 of us joined with the Fair Board in the meeting Friday. It was really nice of them to host us, as we meet with them once a year, but as they mentioned, it's the first time that they'd asked the Board of Commissioners to meet with them during the fair. Like all of you, I too enjoyed being outside with people. There haven't been very many outdoor venues. Yeah, it was hot. So much so that I'm glad that I had the opportunity to visit the animals Friday evening because it was so hot on Sunday that I didn't dare go back to visit for a second weekend in the row. but it was fun to see the sheep and the goats and the swine. And I even got to pet cows, which was a lot of fun. A lot of slobber was involved. So it was fun. So it's a very busy time. I don't know about the rest of you, but unlike prior years, this has not been a quiet summer by any stretch of the imagination. And like you, I've experienced questions and phone calls about what these new mask recommendations mean, and will we be doing anything? And it's like, nope, wear your mask. It's a good idea. And if you're not vaccinated, please get vaccinated. And our team in Washington County continues to do a tremendous job making clinics available. I'm really, really grateful for that. And we all got to see the clinic at the fair as well. So onward, ho we go. I hope the Delta variant doesn't cause our community any further concerns, but I'm sure our public health team will make sure that we know what we need to know and go from there. Commissioner Treese.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just have one other thing I'd like to add.
Sure.
We are going to be receiving a letter from Home Plate requesting support as well. And Chair, your comment about ARPA dollars and the list made me think that I wanted to bring this forward. Both Beaverton and Hillsborough have supported Home Plate with $250,000. I know they're coming to us with a request as well, and I'll bring that letter forward to the rest of you when it comes to me. So just an FYI, one more item, and I'm not sure if that's under ARPA dollars or not, but nonetheless, I just wanted to give you the heads up.
Yep. So there's a lot of belief that ARPA dollars are burning a hole in our pocket. I appreciate that our staff created an ARPA webpage, but I think we might need to get some graphics on that page versus just pointing them to the June 22nd framework, because we need to be able to have a clearer narrative that first 58 million is right now really directed at public health and helping our area businesses operate and participate in economic recovery. So, yep. I don't know about you, but I don't have a hole burning through my pocket. All righty. Well, anything else to close, commissioners, before we move on? I'm assuming that we'll take care of the legislative thank you letters under leadership communication. Okay. All righty. Well, I'll turn it over to you then, Ms. Angie.
Good morning, Chair Harrington, Board of Commissioners. Several of you had mentioned the COVID Delta variant, and this last week I felt like it was Groundhog Day, honestly, talking about masking, and yet it's a very important conversation. We have issued a temporary policy requiring staff to mask indoors. There are some exceptions, such as small group meetings under 6. If all employees gathering are vaccinated, we will be updating that policy to require community members to wear masks as well. That temp policy was forwarded to city managers, special district managers. We've been working in close partnership and collaboration with our local partners through this time. We do know that there's several inquiries coming in. We're receiving them from community and partners, so we will be reinstituting the weekly Friday email to the board with public health information. I do plan on sending that same correspondence to our city managers and special district managers as well. What proved very helpful this spring is then they had sent that to their respective councils or boards to help answer questions. In addition, it started to actually be sent to their departments, and sometimes I've received my emails back and they've gone through 3 or 4 different channels, but that's actually very beneficial to get the message out. The key messages to focus on: wear a mask, get vaccinated, 6 feet apart, and wash your hands. Very simple public health messaging. Our team does continue to be focused on continuing our vaccination efforts. Thank you for the comments of supporting public health. That is recognized and also felt in the board's support for use of ARPA dollars until we get further clarity of what additional state and federal relief. I as well recently met with Habitat. I had the opportunity during that presentation to also share the last board presentation on ARPA funds. And it was actually a really great dialogue about public health and the role that the county plays as we continue to work through this pandemic. Appreciate the comments and suggestion on communications relative to the framework and kind of pulling out some of those key messages. Our internal project management team just actually met on that. So that work is underway to help clarify the board's direction on our ARPA website. I'm going to switch to a different type. I'm happy to take any COVID questions if there were any. We are, Chair.
No, I have to move my mouse and look around, but I have to move my mouse to see if anyone's unmuted.
I know sometimes I have issues. It goes to sleep every now and again. We are scheduled on August 17th to have a more in-depth update on COVID on August 17th for the board. Other areas, just of note, there is no wildfire activity in Washington County, and there's no current watches or warnings in the area. As the board is aware, cooling centers were open last weekend. Actually, usage was minimal, and there were no incidences within the 16 cooling centers. One interesting data point is that community partners and resource groups distributed approximately 60 cases of bottled water to our most vulnerable community members. So just really appreciate the partnership and the community collaboration. Chair?
Can I ask a question back on the wildfires? I can't remember the name of the one that was west of Gales Creek in the Tillamook Forest. I don't think it was on the edge of Washington County.
The Game Hog Creek fire.
Yeah.
Yes, that multiple words, hard to remember.
Is it still going, or is it contained, or what's the deal?
No, they are in heavy mop up. So it is.
Great.
Yep.
Progress. Thank you.
And at this time, I would ask that Clerk Moss promote Jenny Proctor. Jenny's going to provide just a very brief update on the Oregon Emergency Assistance Program, rental relief. And there I see her transitioning right now.
Annie, can you hear us?
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we could see you too.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay. Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to give you this brief update on the county's Emergency Rental Assistance Program. As you know, in December of 2020, an initial stimulus package was approved by Congress, which allocated about $25 billion to states and local governments for rental and utility assistance. From that package, Washington County was allocated just under $18 million, and we refer to that as Emergency Rental Assistance 1 or ERA 1. As part of the American Rescue Plan, another package of rental and utility assistance was approved in the amount of about $21.5 billion nationally. And from that award, Washington County was allocated approximately $20 million. And we refer to that assistance as ERA 2. The state of Oregon also received rent assistance funding under those same packages. So under ERA 1, the state allocated $18 million down to our local community action agency. And as of this date, we have not heard about allocations under the state's ERA 2 program. The state of Oregon is allocating its funds out to its network of community action agencies across the state. So our local community action agency is receiving like amounts of ERA 1 funding from both of our jurisdictions. So a total of $36 million for ERA 1 alone. As you know, Washington County contracted with Community Action to administer its ERA funds. We contracted initially for $10 million to get our funds contracted and start developing our program. So we'll be coming back to your board in the near future to increase that dollar amount now that they are up and running. There are multiple avenues for rent assistance through Community Action. Community Action has the existing portals that they've always had, the online application or assessment tool, and a phone number that one can call. Community Action has developed a partnership with 10 culturally specific agencies, and these relationships are a really powerful tool in helping people that are limited English proficient or those who just may need more hands-on help to work through the application and documentation process. These partner agencies meet with Community Action on a regular basis. I think it's bi-weekly. And at those meetings, Community Action brings in technical assistance from the Oregon Law Center and, if needed, the Fair Housing Council of Oregon. Community Action has staff sited at the Hawthorne Walk-In Clinic, 3 staff at Department of Human Services offices, and also at the Family Justice Center. So if people are seeking assistance through those offices, they have housing staff sited there to assist if rent assistance or utility assistance is needed. In the spring, the state brought on a new platform or portal for application assistance, and that is called ALITA, and people can apply directly through the state's portal. The funding requests are then allocated by the system out to the community action agencies in the jurisdiction where the tenant is actually located. And that happens automatically through the system design. A new partnership has been created between Community Action, the Oregon Law Center, and Unite. So between them, they have 4.75 FTE that are working at and through the courts, pulling new eviction cases off the docket to address those households as top priority. We know that the eviction moratorium ended on June 30th. So that creates a looming housing crisis for these households. The state legislature did pass Senate Bill 278, which provides an additional 60 days of protection for tenants. And this is why the presence of staff at the eviction court is so critical. I wanted to take a moment just to recognize both Community Action and Josh Kreitz from Housing Services for their work on this effort on establishing these partnerships and working with the courts to open the channels of communication about how to more easily identify those eviction cases that are for non-payment of rent. And then another opportunity that we are exploring presented to us by HHS, Health and Human Services, is to utilize the contact tracers to assist in this effort. We have a meeting scheduled this afternoon with the OPHI staff to explore this potential. So I wanted to thank you, Chair Harrington, for communicating with Marnie and for Marnie to reach out to us. We're hopeful that this could result in more ramping up with those boots on the ground. Our staff at the Office of Community Development meet regularly on a weekly basis with community action, addressing regulatory and programmatic issues that come up. And through that work, Community Action has developed a dashboard report that they produce on a weekly basis for us. And I'd like to share a few data points that come from that report, and that report will be shared with you beginning on a bi-weekly basis. We will transmit this information with a narrative summary to Tanya and Ruth, and that can be shared with your board at any time. So since the pandemic began, Community Action has provided more than $25 million in rent assistance and utility assistance. 3,500 households assisted, helping more than 11,000 people in an unduplicated count. 42% of those households assisted are Latino or Latinx. 36% of those households are white households, and 8% of those households assisted are Black households. And more demographic data is available through the dashboard, but I just wanted to highlight some of the higher percentages there. Community Action has received substantial amount of state funding as well, and that state funding had deadlines of June 30th to spend. So their focus through June 30th was primarily on getting all of those funds spent out. Now the focus is solely on the ERA funds for both the county funds and the state money. And at this time, we believe that between all of the ERA 1 and 2 and the state's landlord compensation fund money, that all of those funds, there should be funds enough to assist all of the tenants and therefore their landlords. The crux of the issue is that we just need the time to get the funds out the door. I just wanted to end by saying that Community Action and all of the partner agencies that they work with are doing pretty amazing, heroic work. It's hard work and it's emotionally draining on them. So they are to be commended for their tireless efforts. And I also wanted to offer that Community Action is ready and willing at any time to provide an update to your board in more detail. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
So Ms. Angie, I have a question. So from that call from the governor that I took on, what was that, July 23rd or 22nd or 23rd. Governor Brown has continued to watch and get information from her staff about how many applications for each county have not yet been processed. I appreciate all of the effort that our agency, our multiple departments and Community Action are making. Chair Smith received an additional call from the governor reporting, or where the governor shared with her a report about how the Clackamas County applications were not being processed fast enough. So I don't know where we stand numbers wise out of all the numbers I just heard with application processing between when the governor called me on either July 22nd or 23rd and where we are now, August 3rd. But I can tell you this, I'm not looking forward to a subsequent call from Governor Brown. So if she calls me back on that topic, can I just forward or over to you?
You can absolutely do that, Chair. And I will be working with Jenny to get that report as well as this additional information out to the board. The report that we will be sending is dollars going out from community action and the discrepancy right now on the state website. There is a time lag, and so we are actively working with the state. So we will include clear kind of information that can be helpful to the board in this space. Community action also does need additional resources to get these dollars out faster. And then, so that connects to what Jenny was sharing. How do we as a Washington County agency help support our community partner in community action in getting these dollars out the door? This issue actually, since the federal eviction moratorium has lapsed, has gotten a little, there's more nuance to it beyond your call with the governor. So hence Jenny's, lots of information Jenny shared. Thank you, Jenny. And we will provide it in writing because I'm sure there's lots of follow-up conversations that are questions that board members have, and we're happy to have one-on-one briefings with you.
Yeah, because I think this board is very supportive that we understand there's been a need, and the team has been working for 18 months on getting dollars out to the community. But we've now been asked by the state to be mindful of the number of applications that are backlogged for processing. And we appreciate that there are additional applications that are coming in as well. So how can we be informed about what those numbers are and the progress, and I know it's mindful progress in processing those applications. So really it's that level of information that I want to make sure the board members have the availability of. So we know there's no need to turn the heat up because everybody's already been feeling it. So thank you. Commissioner Fye has her hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Jenny, that was a really great information. And one quick question, I have maybe three easy questions, but the quickest one is the data that you just shared is really good information. And I think a lot of people are concerned about paying rent and people being evicted. I'm wondering if you can share that all that data as a report format to all of us so that we can use it as a talking point if somebody is concerned. And then the other question I had quickly was around, are we tracking the people that get declined or denied and why they get denied? And then the other question I had with that is people who apply are waiting to be processed. Did they get a letter from either from Washington County or Community Action saying that this person is in the process to be approved? Please don't evict them. And then the last question I had is if we can get the backlogged, if I can say that, applications by race and ethnicity.
Thank you. Those are great questions. So yes, on your first question, in terms of sharing the report, yes, following today's meeting, I will provide the report and a brief summary to Tanya, and then she can forward it on. And then following that, every 2 weeks, there will be a report that's provided. So you'll receive regular updates from this point forward. I believe that the U.S. Treasury has required data on denials. So I need to go back and look at that and how that's captured. But I've made a note of it, so I will circle back and let you know about that. There is a letter sent out when an application has been received in the system that is provided to the tenant and to the landlord, saying that the tenant has applied, and that this is an approximate amount of rent owed based on what their application says, and that that does alert the landlord that this person has made an application, and so they are, known by community action staff and in the pipeline. So that does happen automatically. And then in terms of the backlog by race and ethnicity, yes, I'm sure that that's available. I don't have that readily available, but I will circle back and get the data and then provide that to you.
Thank you, Jenny. That's all, Chair.
Well, folks, we are at 10 o'clock or just past 10 o'clock. So I know we need to pick back up with the CAO leadership communication. Even if she's done, we still have to do the thank you letter. So I would say let's take a pause here in work session and then reconvene in our business meeting. Is everybody okay with that? All righty, so we'll do that.
All right, I will see you on the third Zoom link, commissioners.
Thank you.